Today is Saturday, August the 13th. This is Sean Copeland, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Kingdom Driven CEO. Before we jump into our topic today, let me just give you a real quick update on the last week. It has been wild. Our response to the Bigger Than Baseball podcast, where we told the behind-the-scenes story of Isaiah Jarvis's very, very famous hug, has gone wild. We have received an unbelievable amount of listeners, and I'm so thrilled that the Lord is using this as a platform to spread His love. I think what we are seeing is that people are tired of the divisiveness and fighting, and at the end of the day, love should conquer all, as the Bible tells us. And so during many of these interviews, I have been asked things about our coaching style because we are very positive as coaches, and we kid around, laugh with the kids. I would tell really bad jokes throughout the game to our kids to try to get them to be calm, and we just weren't real big on yelling and demeaning the kids. And so people would ask me about that a lot, and I thought I would take just a moment here to talk a little bit about why I believe encouragement and honesty are so important, both in the game of baseball, but also in life as well. I want to start this by sharing a couple of negative coaching experiences where I did poorly. So we have a very, very good baseball player, probably our best player during this tournament, named Journey Boswell. And Journey is a competitor, and he plays hard. The bigger the stage, the better he plays, and he was phenomenal. I think he hit .444. He gave up one run in his pitching outing. I mean, he is just fantastic. Well, we were talking a lot about the importance of getting runners in when we had them in scoring position, and if we had less than 2 outs, just getting the ball on the ground or hitting it deep into the outfield so we could tag and get in, because every run counted big time in this tournament. Well, Journey was up there battling, and he accidentally hit a pop fly to the first baseman. And we had runners on second and third. We had 1 out. It was kind of a tough play at the time. And I got frustrated, and he looked over at me, and I know he was expecting encouragement, and I did not give him that. I basically said, Journey, something to the effect of, I can't believe you did that. And I could see the look on his face when I did that. His face darkened. He looked down. It was as if, I had removed my love from him as his coach, and I do love him very, very much. Of course, I immediately apologized and never did that again. I had another moment with my son, Finley, who he was pitching, and he came back in and he talked about how he was struggling to throw strikes, and I basically just said he's just got to adjust. He was our ace pitcher, and you just got to do whatever it takes, but you got to get the ball over the plate. And he basically said, I'm trying. I'm doing my best. It's not like I'm trying to throw balls. I'm trying to throw strikes. And I remembered back in my days of pitching when people would yell from the stands, you got to throw strikes, and yelling at me. And obviously, I knew that. I was trying to do that. And them yelling at me did not help me at all. Well, this same situation plays out for us every day in our homes. It plays out every day for us at work with our employees. And I think what I'm going to share and prove to you today is that criticism, bringing people down, demeaning them, particularly publicly, is not the way to lead. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, all this fluffy leadership stuff is good and great, but I've got to give my employees feedback. I have to tell them when, they are doing wrong. It can't just be kumbaya all the time at my company, and I completely agree with that. But here's what I have noticed. When we give feedback and coaching in love, and they know, the employee or the player knows that we're just trying to help them become better, that is much different than being angry and lashing out and making somebody look bad in front of their teammates or their coworkers. Our goal was that we wanted the boys to feel supported, but we also wanted to give them honest feedback. We did not want to sugarcoat the fact that there's certain play that they needed to handle differently, or a certain technique or a skill that they needed to develop, but we always did it in a way that we were building them up. We also wanted to lower the pressure and help them realize that we knew they were doing their best. That's all we asked them to do. This is just baseball. It's not the end of the world, and they just needed to come out and have fun and just play one baseball game at a time, and all the other stuff, the media and the TV and all that stuff, that would take care of itself. We just needed to play baseball. That's why I got in the habit of telling these really, really bad jokes, because I was trying to get them to just calm down. In our workplace, appreciation in building people up is almost non-existent. There's actually a new book out called 5 Languages of Workforce Appreciation. It's very, very good. And it talks about the fact that if you feel appreciated at your job or at your work, you probably love your job. 64% of people leave their job because they do not feel appreciated. And let me just give you some examples. Here are a few quotes from employees. It's not about the money. No matter what I do, I never hear anything positive. No one would ever lift a finger to help me get something done. They just gripe at me all the time. We worked very hard at my company, but they treat us very well. We have regular get-togethers where we talk about our issues, and they always listen to us. Those are very, very different mindsets, those 3. So the question is, how appreciated do you feel by your immediate supervisor? And if you are a manager, how much appreciation do you show to your employees? And I would say the same thing within our families. As parents, do we show appreciation, or are we constantly criticizing? I've noticed Isaiah Jarvis, the young man who's become so virally famous for the hug, his father is a college baseball coach. So as you can imagine, he's pretty tough. And I've watched those two. I've watched the dynamic between them and how Coach Jarvis is very, very direct in giving Isaiah feedback. But I've also noticed that every time he is finished, he will give him a hug. He always tells him he's done a great job. He is direct and honest, but he is also very positive at the same time. And that's what we want. We don't want to not give feedback and be honest with people. We just need to do it in love and in a way that is going to help them. So what we have learned is that there are 5 ways that we can show appreciation to our workers. One is words of affirmation, the words that we speak to them, and that's the main one. That's what people need to hear the most. About 45% of people prefer words of affirmation. Number 2, quality time. They want to be able to spend quality time with the boss in a setting that is not in work. It might be playing golf, it might be going to a ball game, whatever the case may be. Number 3, acts of service. Things that we do for them. Maybe it's detailing their car. Maybe it's helping them with a very taxing work assignment. Number 4 is tangible gifts. Actually getting them stuff, gift cards, giving them, a gas card whenever they do something really well at work. And then number 5 is physical touch, which, as you can imagine, you have to be really, really careful on this one, but it isn't very important in certain types of situations. When you think of words of affirmation, I'm just going to hit on each of these real quick because I think these could be game changers for us at home and at work. Praise lasts for a month. It's more important for people to hear from their coworkers than it is their supervisors. I've heard people say I worked at the same place for 20 years. I've had a good job, but no appreciation. And as the person has told me, nobody's ever once told them that they appreciated what they have done as they cried when they told me that. We all have a desire to feel that we truly matter. And the question is, does my manager really care about my well-being? We can't make somebody else happy, but appropriate praise, it will stick with people for about a month. When we're talking about quality time, that's both in and out of work, listening to them, letting them share ideas, asking them what they think, and again, out of work, taking them out for lunch, or just spending time with them is very, very important. Acts of service looks like helping on a project when it needs to be done. Do it their way. Do it in a voluntary way whenever you're helping them out. Have a cheerful attitude. An example in the book talks about a guy named John who always shows up and does the duties that no one else wants, and he really, really loves it when others work beside him. Tangible gifts. This would be like tickets to events, and it's got to be the right gift, not raises or bonuses. Those feel like they are already earned, and so they don't feel like anything extra. It's probably the least chosen language. Only 6% would say, hey, this is their main one. Words of affirmation clearly is number one. But if you can find something that the people really enjoy, food is a favorite. Maybe it's coffee, pizza, chocolate, then gift cards, then maybe experiences. Maybe it's a weekend away or golf or going to games or concerts. Time off can be very popular. But things that are traditional or look like they're an obligation or look like you're just giving them a bunch of leftovers, like all the old logo stuff, that does not work at all. When you think of physical touch, they didn't actually include that very much in the book because obviously you need to be very careful, but it might be something as simple as a firm handshake while you're looking somebody in the eye, a high five, a hug, a pat on the back. Obviously the hug needs to be very appropriate. It's highly individualized. It'll depend upon, how the people were raised, their family, their geography, their culture. It's used very often in sports, and babies and elderly people really need touch more than others. It's more normal in times of crisis. Giving somebody a hug when they've been through something really very, very difficult is more appropriate, and the recipient is always the authority. So if you're sensing that the person, I'm a hugger. I love to hug people. That's why you saw our Little League team hugging everybody, as I hug everybody. And so, you just got to make sure that the person on the other end is comfortable with it. About half of women have experienced sexual harassment or abuse, and so you certainly never want to go over the line, particularly with them. You want to always be very careful and sensitive to what's going on. So finally, I think it's important to note that recognition is not the same as appreciation. Recognition is more programmatical. It's awards. It doesn't really work. It's kind of like you're just going through the motion. A lot of it's length of service or how much you've grown or whatever. That's not the same. We need to focus on appreciation, which is unique, it is individual, it is very specific, and it is very, very heartfelt. There are also some generational differences here, but not big ones. When you look over time, younger people prefer more quality time and less acts of service. They also think the speed of feedback is very, very important. Team recognition is desired more among younger people than older people, but overall, it stays pretty true. So whether you are leading a Little League baseball team and building them up and giving them tons of positive feedback about how well they've played and a great play that they just made, and still giving them honest feedback about how they can be better, or whether you are dealing with your employees who, same thing, we need to constantly be giving positive feedback and appreciation on things that they do, but also giving them honest feedback on how they can be better. All of this should be done in private. None of this should ever be, as far as the criticism goes, none of this should ever be embarrassing for them. And I think over time, what you will find is when you do these things, it creates a great culture like what you saw with our team at the Little League World Series and hopefully at our bank. We try to practice the same exact culture of recognition and appreciation, over being critical and demeaning every single day in both situations. So I hope this was helpful to you today. We'll have another great episode of the Kingdom Driven CEO next Saturday. So I hope you are able to join us then. Thank you so much and have a great week.